Well, it's a really complicated question. And I spoke at a conference the other day, and at that conference was a guy named Gerd Gigerenzer, who is the sort of anti-Kahneman. Kahneman and Gigerenzer are both very interested in both heuristics, meaning rules of thumb, and instinctual behavior. And I got a chance to ask basically the exact same question you asked to Gigerenzer, the master. He's this very nice older German-speaking individual, and he's like, well, if you are an expert and you are having negative feelings, then listen to those feelings, right? So if you really know what you're doing and you're an expert, listen to those feelings. And the conversation continued, and I pointed out that a lot of people die in avalanches feeling very positive about the terrain they're going into. So how do you do that? And he goes, well, if you're not an expert, then listen to your negative intuition, but question your positive intuition very carefully. And I thought that was a really smart answer. So if I'm on launch and I'm feeling fear, that's not what I want to be feeling. When I was younger and paddling a lot of really wild kayaking stuff, I would puke in eddies at the top of drops. And that is a poor mental state to perform at a high level in. When you have that much adrenaline, your gross motor your fine motor coordination falls apart, your decision making falls apart. So if you have that fear on launch, and I get it still to this day, I step back and I ask what's going on. A rule that I kind of use is that which you ignore gets larger. So if you are afraid, ask why and step back and break it down. A little bit of fear and adrenaline is good. If you're like, wow, it looks big out there, but gliders are staying together and I've been doing this a lot. A little bit is good. It sharpens your mind, makes you more attentive. That's good. But if you really feel that fear, like this is not good, then I'd suggest that's not a good state to be flying in and slow down. And I love this topic. So one last thing on that. Occasionally, for no rational explanation, I will get scared at some place like base. I'm going glide. It's a perfect day. There's no Q-dibs. The change rate's good all around me, and I'll just be scared. I'm just having a high fear day. And I have been known to scream at clouds and say bad things to them. Yeah, I just got to change my mind state a bit. But if my first question is what's going on, and I don't think being fearful is a good state to fly in. You want to feel competent and on. A little bit's normal. That's fine. But more than just that edge, step it back, develop more competency, ask what's wrong, and dig into it. Well, that's a huge set of interesting things to be as well. I think the first thing is to have a realistic appreciation of the hazards and to realize you're not special. And that sets the foundation for good decision making and trying to make it to the end of the day without killing yourself. It's not, do you really need to do this? Not everybody needs to fly paragliders. If you can get the rush out of playing tennis, then I would urge you to play tennis. This is a stupid, silly, expensive, ridiculous, awesome, incredible sport. And people ask me so if they want to learn to fly, old or young, they're like, I want to go flying. I'm like, would you ride a motorcycle? And if they say, no, that's too dangerous, then I'm like, probably shouldn't take up paragliding then, because I think that's probably pretty equivalent. And then as far as getting older, the research says that our reaction times don't drop that fast. What does drop is our ability to process new information. So somebody mentioned Kahneman in here. Kahneman is a psychologist interesting researcher. A lot of the stuff we need to react very fast at has to be instinctual. So when we take an asymmetric, we can't think, right, I'm going to lean onto the we've already got wound in at that point. So we have to develop those instincts, especially as older pilots, so it's familiar so that our minds can process them. But it also applies to younger pilots. And then as older pilots, I think we forget things more. And I didn't have a good start with that. So I've competed in major competitions with one shoe on my foot, and being current is important to go out and practice. And that positive limit seeking that I talked about earlier, it's like, don't go out and just ground handle in perfect conditions. Go and launch with no wind. And this applies to all flying. Go out and ground handle on ridiculous days and get yeeted maybe if you're not really old, where you're going to break something. Um, but seek those limits as an older pilot and get good enough so that when you get yeeted on launch, that you don't, it's not a surprise. You're like, been here, done that, and I can deal with it. So yeah, and then you've got lots of
Like it.
money and you're tired, go flying a lot. No, for me personally, I think that's and again, I sort of covered it a few different ways. I find intense meaning in doing this. I love doing it. The very things that make paragliding what it is, um, are we can't turn paragliding into commercial aviation and make it as safe as commercial aviation, or it's not going to be paragliding. And I'm okay with that. It's the flip side of that is I also take some really specific steps. I do have life insurance. I pay a lot for it. I have kids. I've tried to set it up so that if I get killed doing this, the impact's going to be very large, but I want to make it as small as I can on those that matter to me. But that dissonance is always there. Is this worth it? I don't know. To me, it is. Flying, that video I just put out of flying into a Cinnabon, soloing it and flying home. That's like 48 hours of the 48 of the best hours of my life. That feels worth it. If I'd gotten killed, everybody would be like, that guy's an idiot. What was he doing trying to like fly into this high altitude, windy place, land a paraglider, solo the mountain, then fly home? The guy was an idiot. So I think that question is kind of in a weird way the answer to it.
Mm.
It's that wrestling with it that really, really matters. And yeah, keep wrestling with it. If you get the perfect answer, let me know. I don't have that answer, but I ask it and I wrestle with it and I try my best to answer it.
Will, thank you very much. That was a very, very good answer to a difficult question. And the whole presentation was fantastic.